Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be playing World of Tanks hard mode, and why exactly that is, you're just going to have to wait till after the battle to see. But I tell you one thing that isn't hard mode about playing this, is playing a top tier Soviet heavy tank inside a very nice matchup. This vehicle is the Kirvets. It is just one of the most horrible tanks that I can possibly imagine with regards to how it was released into the game. Wargaming released this in their... was it the Trading Caravan event that was just several months ago, and it was the only new piece of content in the Trading Caravan, which required you to roll and roll and roll and roll and roll and roll and roll to be able to access a variety of deals. Now, a lot of the deals were absolutely awful. Styles that you already had, styles that were excessively expensive, pieces of equipment that you may or may not be interested in, but everybody was rolling to try and get this, the Kirvets. And it was a complete disaster because they didn't even know how much the Kirvets was really going to cost. And it was 15 million credits to be able to pick up this tank. Now, I had to roll on the release day of this vehicle so many times that it cost me about 5 million credits before I even got to see the tank. And so I ended up spending 20 million credits on this vehicle. The biggest joke is that the tank had this bar that slowly went down. It had 3 different stages, so it wasn't like you could really see. It had 3 stages where there's a lot in stock, not a lot in stock, and there's a very small amount in stock. And within like the first couple of hours of the event going, all of these vehicles had sold out. People were coming home from work and they were trying to roll for the Kirvets to be able to get that new premium tank that they can get their hands on. And we're doing a bit of a greedy intuition switch here. Weren't rewarded against the back of the Super Hellcat there. And people were coming home from work, and I guess they were trying to roll to be able to get it, and they didn't even realize that the vehicle was sold out unless they were watching one of a stream such as mine. And so it was just a complete disaster. People were coming home, dumping millions and millions and millions of credits of being able to get the vehicle that didn't even exist within the rolling pool anymore, with no warning that it had been released. Now, to be fair, Wargaming did race as quickly as they could to be able to inform people on the website, and I believe maybe in an in-game pop-up that the vehicle was sold out. But considering that this vehicle was that big advert for the whole campaign, it was just a complete and utter joke. And do you know what the ultimate joke is of this vehicle? It's basically the hull of an Object 7032, which came out a couple of years ago. It is undoubtedly one of the best premium tanks inside the game, with a regular kind of IS-3 turret and a single shot gun that the 7032 has. So it's really basically just a 7032 without having the double barrel that ended up being excessively expensive, at least with regards to credits. Although I'm sure a lot of people out there will think, well, there's a good opportunity. You can spend 20 million credits to get a premium tank. Yeah, if you got lucky to be able to roll to pick one up in the first few hours. I guess that's kind of better than spending hard currency inside the game. So I'm letting the KB1S know that I'm going to be able to help them out in this situation, as this cheeky Centurion keeps coming around. And it's at this stage where I start to really wonder, oh, look at that. I'm even being a nice guy trying to protect this KB1S from his side. You know, sometimes the big tank has to help out the little tank, right, in this scenario. Plus, it's in my interest to keep all of my guns alive, because this Centurion seems to only want to focus him and not focus me. So if I can use that as a distraction plan, maybe I can be able to help out. It was at this stage of the game that I realized that for some reason my reload was just very, very excessively long in this vehicle. And I know the vehicle doesn't have great DPM, 1,800, but it seems like I'm having a real hard time dueling these two vehicles with my KV-1S buddy. Alright, VK appears behind us as well. Luckily the KV-1S doesn't manage to get hit, and I'm going to go and try and rush this VK, try and distract him, try and get him to look at me and not look at my KV-1S anymore. And unfortunately, this is what happens when you have a hull that has about 200 millimeters of effective frontal hull armor against tier 6 tanks. Yeah, it doesn't really go very well for the enemy team. That was an interesting repair kit. That was almost instant. You think that player was using one of those mods? Either that or they've got quicker fingers than me, and that's meant to be my account name. So unfortunately, the KB-1S behind me makes the ultimate sacrifice. We can see now the VK is firing gold, which he should do against this vehicle, as it is 2 tiers higher. I'm just hoping that maybe we're going to be able to finish them off and pick up our 3rd kill of the game. But the game is still neck and neck. Maybe not on hit points, but remember, the hit points don't update until we get within the render distance of all of the members of our team. So when we get closer to the Oni, maybe it's going to drop down. When we get closer towards the Jagdpanzer IV, it might drop down further still. And so having tanks in the game for which the enemy are actually up on a vehicle is almost sometimes a better indicator than the hit points. Obviously, you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. If they only have 500 hit points and 10 tanks, and you've got 2 mouse left on all of your hit points, it's probably still going to be the mouse that will work out, depending on whether they're autoloaders or not. Alright, so an E25 making their way across here, and one thing that is nice about the Object 703-2's gun and the Kirovets by proxy is that it has a great shell velocity, and so you don't even really need to give lead to your opponents. 1,400 meters a second, I mean that even fast vehicles like the E25 are not a match for the Kirovet's power. This tank, again, I feel as if I was completely and utterly mugged with this tank. I barely played it since. I think I played it this game because people voted for it inside a tank poll. And one thing that I'd like to mention, I'd really like to stress, is that your credits aren't free. Sure, you can grind them. I guess maybe if you just play the game naturally with your premium tanks and you make your credits, that's fine. But if any of you out there find that you're trying to catch up on credits in World of Tanks, realize that a vehicle like this, it has a time requirement that you've effectively had to invest. Now, if you're rocking and rolling in your high-tier premium tanks and you're running credit boosters, then this tank would have probably taken me about 20 hours of my life to be able to grind. Now, of course, if I enjoy the premium tanks, then that's one thing. But if I don't, that's another thing altogether. And if I feel like I'm constantly having to play catch-up in World of Tanks, that definitely wasn't the most glorious handling of that E25. And also, big respect to him for actually trying to handle that situation. Then, don't get baited by wargaming into spending millions of credits without realizing that you are spending hours of your life, even in premium tanks with credit boosters, to be able to afford your credit purchase. It's very easy for the player base who are incredibly dedicated and play World of Tanks the whole time and have hundreds of millions of credits saved up to inflate the prices of all of these things. And they seem to be going up and up and up and up. It was only a couple of years ago where it felt ridiculous that some premium tanks were sold for 5 million credits. I believe that was the first one. I think the M41 Black Dog, the Tier 8 premium German light tank, was the first one that Wargaming sold for us a large amount of credits. And then just a couple of years later, then it's suddenly vehicles like the T22 that went for I think about 50 mil, and vehicles like the Qilin that went for about 35 mil. And I really wonder if the player base realize just how many hours of their life they're investing every time that they collect one of those tanks. Hopefully, hours enjoyed having fun grinding those credits, and not hours where they feel that they've been sacrificing other aspects of their life. Can we take a moment to appreciate just how bad the modeling was there on the rear part of the Rudy? That honestly is where having the new enhanced reticle settings are actually fabulous. To be able to have that in that situation to account for that horrible modeling on that tank really saved me in that scenario. Alright, so we pick up our Top Gun now against the ELC Even 90, and I was starting to get suspicious. I never thought that the Kirovets felt like an incredible tank with regards to its gun handling with 0.45 accuracy, horrible dispersion values, and 3.1 seconds aim time. But even I was getting suspicious. Now the funny thing was, I'm sure that I was using equipment on this vehicle, because my vehicle's bombing it around. I'm using... You can hear the turbo in the engine. And also, the vehicle's top speed is 42 kilometers an hour, and I'm going at 46 right now, clearly meaning that I am using a turbo on this tank. Something was still fishy. Anyway, 5 versus 1 now. The Liberté is going to have to do some big stuff here if he wants to be able to take us, to try and get the Colobanos in this round. I tell the ELC Even 90, can we manage to try and find the Liberté? I ask if the Liberté will be able to come, and I say, let's farm him, because, I don't know, I've got 900 hit points left, and I'd absolutely love to be able to get a little bit more cheeky damage against this Liberté. But at the end of the day, also, maybe people want to be able to get on, maybe people want to pick another tank, maybe people want to play another map, and so if the ELC does decide to be able to cap out in this scenario, there is no hard feelings. I would have probably done the same. Actually, no, I wouldn't. If I was playing an ELC in this situation and I had all of my hit points left, I would be bombing it around the entire map, trying to find out where their liberté was to be able to get some more damage and also some more spotting in this engagement. So, the Kirvets. This is a vehicle that I almost feel like a mug that I ended up buying. It's such a boring tank. It's a 7032 without the double barrel gun, which is kind of the fun aspect of the 7032. Sure, it's got a little bit better top speed and it has that great hull, and the turret armor, it's not bad. But when I think about the fact that I traded at least about 20, or if I'm not doing very well and there hasn't been a premium consumable sale for a very long time, up to 30 hours of my life grinding premium tanks to be able to afford this thing, that was painful. But do you know what was even more painful, ladies and gentlemen, when I got to the garage? Not the result. This result was great. 125,000 credits, 6,051 experience here, a high caliber, a top gun, and a steel wall. But when I looked towards the lower part of my screen, I realized that I made a terrible mistake. And yes, I know it's a bit of a meme that QuickyBaby likes turbos, but do I like a turbo so much that I would have it as the only thing inside the slot and not also have vents and a gun rammer? Yeah, you can probably tell that my account is very stretched for equipment right now as well, if I haven't even bothered to replace the bounty equipment that I most likely took off this thing as soon as I stopped playing it on that first day of purchase. So challenge mode activated, hard mode achieved, playing World of Tanks with only one piece of equipment. There were lots of good memes coming out on the stream from this saying, wow, QB would probably take 3 turbos if he could. Maybe in an IS-7 I would. Alas, even with the handicap of only one piece of standard equipment that didn't even get a socket bonus, it wasn't enough to stop the steamroll of the enemy team, which, let's be honest, it wasn't really that magnificent after we managed to take out the top tier Centurion, who seemed to be more focused on taking out my friend in the KV-1S. It was just tanks that couldn't really pen me frontally, even if they were firing gold, and I could easily pen them. But what I really wanted to stress in this video is kind of an afterthought of the Kirvets and buyer's remorse. I definitely have buyer's remorse when it comes to this tank. Sure, I'm in the fortunate position where I get to play World of Tanks all day long and be able to create content on it as if it was a full-time occupation, which it is. And being able to have this vehicle in my garage is very useful because, you know, I got something rare and my audience will be able to check it out. But I really wanted to stress in this video and to highlight to all of you that your credits aren't free unless you're just absolutely amazingly happy to log into World of Tanks and grind your premium tanks and get loads and loads and loads of credits along the way, and you've got nothing better to be able to spend them on. Just a little bit of food for thought for future wargaming events. Be careful, as those millions of credits do have hours of your life attached to them, and unless you're careful, you might have a hard time keeping up and trying to focus on the things that you can also spend your credits on to give yourself more of an advantage. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was playing World of Tanks hard mode. Hope you enjoyed the video today, or maybe you just enjoyed the commentary about the Kirvets and the summary of that trading caravan event. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments if you managed to get yourself a Kirvets, or have you made any other large credit purchases in the game. Maybe you got yourself a Chilin, maybe you got yourself a T22 medium. And do you have any regret thinking about how many hours and hours and hours of your life went into the credits that you had to spend on getting them? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.